In December 2020, Sony pulled the game from the PlayStation Store. Not because it was inappropriate, not because it violated any rule, because it was broken, completely, embarrassingly broken. And that game had just launched 8 days earlier as the most anticipated title of the year. That game was Cyberpunk. And I want to talk about that. But I also want to talk about everything around it, because Cyberpunk is not really the most interesting case. It's just the biggest. There are stories from smaller studios, indie teams, solo developers that are quieter and somehow worse. So let's go through them. So Cyberpunk was announced in 2012. 8 years of trailers, demos and interviews. 8 years of building something in people's imaginations that no game could ever fully be. When it launched on December 2020, players on PC got a flawed but recognizable version of what had been promised. Players on PC4 and Xbox One got something else. Frame rates dropping below 20, textures that refuse to load, characters talking with no face, hard crashes that threw you back to your console's home screen. The game had been delayed 4 times. The last delay came in October 2020, about 6 weeks before launch. When it finally came out, the console version was, in many people's words, unplayable. Sony pulled it from the PlayStation Store 8 days after release and offered full refunds to everyone who had bought it. And Microsoft expanded its refund policy for the Xbox players. GameStop, which almost never accepts opened games, labeled it defective and took it back. So the developers released a statement. We should have paid more attention to making it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So that sentence is strange, but it's also honest. Most studios in this situation say something like, we are aware of issues affecting some players' experience, but they admitted they messed up. But wait, because the game that exists today, after years of patches and a full next-gen update in February 2022, is excellent. People who bought it in 2020 and gave up have gone back and found a genuinely good game. The story didn't end badly in this case. It just started that way. Let's be honest, today Cyberpunk is a great game, which is not something you can say about everything on this list. Hello Games is a tiny studio from Guildford, England. Before No Man's Sky, they made a game called Joe Danger, which was fun and small and honest about what it was. But No Man's Sky was not a small project. So the idea was essentially this: an infinite universe, procedurally generated planets, each with their own ecosystems, atmospheres, creatures. You land, explore, fly to another star, and maybe land again in another planet. Billions of planets. Interviews strongly suggested players could encounter each other online, even if the exact form of multiplayer was never clearly defined. Sean Murray, the founder of Hello Games, went on stage at E3. He appeared on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. He discussed features in interviews that either appeared in a limited form later or were completely missing at launch, like multiplayer, for example. 2 players streamed their attempt to find each other on launch day. They found the same location. They were standing in the same place. They could not see each other. A Reddit post cataloged everything Murray had described in interviews that was missing from the final game. Joinable factions with real consequences, the ability to land on asteroids, crashed freighters on planets, certain creature behaviors. The list was long. Murray told the Australian press before launch, "I don't know if we can ever live up to the hype we've generated. Sometimes knowingly, often not." So basically, even before release, he seemed aware that the expectations had become impossible. Hello Games went kind of silent after launch for a few months, and then they started releasing free updates, big ones, over and over. They added base building, multiplayer, VR support, full story missions, and entirely new game modes, all free for years. No Man's Sky today is not the game that launched in 2016. It's bigger than what was promised, which doesn't erase what happened, but it does make it hard to end the story with a simple verdict. When I look at what Murray pulled off with a small team, building something that ambitious at all, part of me just feels the exhaustion of that. Making a game that complex with a handful of people is genuinely insane. The gap between what he was saying in interviews and what the game could actually deliver was big. And the people who paid $60 in 2016 deserved a different game. So, like Cyberpunk, No Man's Sky is a different game today. I'm actually happy they didn't stop and kept working on it. This one is personal for a lot of people who grew up with Mega Man. Keiji Inafune worked at Capcom for decades. He had a hand in creating Mega Man. When Capcom kept canceling Mega Man games, including Mega Man Legends 3 in 2011 right before its planned release, Inafune had already left the company. He started his own studio, Concept. In August 2013, he launched a Kickstarter for Mighty Number 9, a new side-scrolling action game clearly built on everything Mega Man was. The campaign reached its $900,000 goal in 2 days. It ended with over $3.8 million. Fans saw it as the game Capcom refused to make. Inafune was the guy who was going to give it back to them. Then came the stretch goals. More platforms, more modes, a handheld version, a 3DS version, a Vita version, an Xbox 360 version. Every time money came in, the scope got wider. The original release window was spring 2015. The game shipped in June 2016, after 3 major delays. And when it arrived, the reviews were rough. Some said it looked dated, but I don't think that was the major problem. The mechanics felt unfinished. While Mighty Number 9 was still in development, Inafune launched another Kickstarter, Red Ash, another spiritual successor to a different Mega Man series. Still no release date on Mighty Number 9, and he was asking people to fund the next thing, and backers were a bit furious. But let's get back to the Mighty Number 9. So the game sold poorly and the reviews were not great. Inafune tried to keep going with the Red Ash, but Kickstarter failed to meet its target. And now it seems that Concept was dissolved in January 2026. At the time of dissolution, Steam charts recorded 0 concurrent players. Peter Molyneux made Populous in 1989. He made Theme Park. He made Black and White and Fable. He is one of the most creative figures in the history of the medium, and he has spent about 30 years building a reputation for promising features that often changed or disappeared before release. This is not a secret about him. It was already a known thing about Peter Molyneux before Godus. In late 2012, he launched a Kickstarter for Godus, a god game meant to be a modern successor to Populous. The campaign raised more than £500,000. Among the promises, a PC version, a Linux version, multiplayer, and behind-the-scenes artwork. The Linux version was never made. The art book was never made. The multiplayer was not delivered as promised. A mobile version appeared with pay-to-win mechanics that were never mentioned in the Kickstarter pitch. So Godus was never really finished. The game drifted into an incomplete early access state and largely stopped receiving meaningful updates. Molyneux moved on to other things. I said I would keep my perspective out of this, but I need to say something about Kickstarter. The platform creates an incentive to overcommit at exactly the moment when you should be most careful. So sometimes you end up promising something that you're not able to deliver. The game is no longer available for purchase as on Steam, but it is still available on mobile devices. Star Citizen started as a Kickstarter in 2012. Chris Roberts, who made the Wing Commander series, wanted to build a space simulation game. The campaign raised about $2 million. Then it moved to its own website and kept going. It never stopped. As of December 2025, combined crowdfunding and early access sales have reached nearly $1 billion. Let that sink in. $1 billion for a game that has been in development for more than 13 years and has not released. In 2024 alone, Cloud Imperium Games took in $114 million in pledges. That is more than the entire development budget of The Witcher 3 for 1 year of funding on a game that people have been waiting for since 2012. People are paying hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars for ships that exist only inside a game that is technically still in alpha. You can spend $1,000 on a virtual spaceship that flies in a build of a game with no release date. Star Citizen is such a strange case because it is not a scam and it exists in a strange state between live product and perpetual prototype. A huge amount of work has been done. There are playable builds. There are features that genuinely impress people who spend time in them. The technology being built is ambitious in ways that might actually matter someday, but someday keeps moving. I genuinely do not know how to end this section. Star Citizen may one day release and be extraordinary. It may never release. It may release and be ordinary. All three of those feel equally possible. What I do know is that probably no single game in history has collected this much money from players before delivering a finished product. There is also a whole category of failure that never makes the major lists because the money involved is too small to scandalize anyone. But these are the ones that actually make me feel something. Yogventures was a Kickstarter for an open world game featuring characters from the Yogcast YouTube channel. It raised over $500,000. The developer, Winterkel Games, was a first-time studio. According to reports from the team at the time, an artist left early in development and took $35,000 of the budget with him due to a contract error. The founder put $25,000 of his own money in. It was not enough. The game was cancelled in 2014. Backers got a copy of a different game instead of a refund. Most of them never got refunds. Clang was a sword-fighting game backed by science fiction author Neil Stephenson. It raised $526,000. Stephenson was honest at the end about what went wrong. The prototype was technically interesting but not fun to play. He had focused on historical accuracy at the expense of gameplay. He cancelled it in September 2014. He told backers there might be bonus rewards in future projects. Then I don't know what happened next. There are hundreds of these games that raised maybe $30,000 from people who believed in them. Games made by one person who ran out of money or got sick or just discovered that the thing they were building was not the thing they thought they were building. Most of those developers are not villains. The fact with Kickstarter is that you are betting on a person's future ability to execute something they have not yet built. Sometimes the person is Chris Roberts, and the bet compounds infinitely. Sometimes the person is a first-time developer who loses an artist and marriage and still can't finish the game. Both outcomes happen, and there is no reliable way to tell which one you are funding. So, what do you do with that? I think you stay skeptical of hype without becoming completely close to it. You remember that the demo is not a game, a trailer is not a game, and a Kickstarter page is certainly not a game. But also, occasionally, the thing that looked too good is actually true, and Stardew Valley existed, and Hollow Knight existed, and hundreds of games that nobody promised on a conference stage turned out to be extraordinary. This video was tough. But now I want to hear from you. What's the game you backed or bought early that didn't deliver what you expected? And did you go back to it later? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.